So welcome back to another rebuild here on NBA 2K25 Next Gen. In today's video, we are back with another episode of our Curry era rebuild series, and today it's the Atlanta Hawks. This season as a whole was almost a turning point for Atlanta. Of course, they had lost Al Horford in free agency. They ended up replacing him by attempting to sign Dwight Howard to a 3-year, $70 million contract. He played for them for one season, and it did not necessarily work out. This is a team that has a decent core, but there's not really any superstars on it. Of course, a few years later, transitioned and eventually drafted the face of their franchise now in Trae Young. So our goal today is to sort that out. Of course, this team has not won a championship under either regime, and hopefully we can bring them that here today. I know I mentioned in Monday's video that we only have a few of these left to go, and a couple people were asking which teams are there left. So obviously we're here doing the Hawks today. After this, we have the Pistons and the Hornets in the East. We have the Jazz, the Pelicans, and the Kings in the West. So I know there's not a lot of teams we have left in this series. I've thoroughly enjoyed it, and of course we are always open to any other future series ideas that you guys are interested in. So let me know all those, along with just any other one-off rebuilds down below in the comment section. I am very much looking forward to this one here today. Let's get into it. All right, let's go ahead and dive into this roster a little bit. We are here at the beginning of the 2016-2017 season, and as I touched on a little bit in the intro, this was almost a weird transition period for Atlanta because they were still trying to compete, don't get me wrong, but it became pretty evident pretty quickly that this team was not going to be a championship contender. They only won 43 games this season in real life. Crazy enough, that was good enough for the 5 seed here in the East. But if I'm being honest with you, this core as a whole really isn't close to competing with the top of the East. So we'll figure it out, but let's go over it. There are a few notable players missing. First and foremost, I have no idea why Kyle Korver's not here. You would think Kyle Korver would be in 2K. I'm almost positive he should be, but he is not. And then Kent Bazemore is another pretty notable one, if you remember Kent Bazemore. So yeah, those are the two big ones. Of course, here in the user-created custom roster, we have more players than we genuinely would if this was just the 2K roster. But you get what you pay for, I guess. All right, position by position. Dennis Schroeder is here. He's only 23 years old at this time. He is certainly somebody that I could see as a long-term piece for this team. Now, will he be the starting point guard the entire time and hopefully on a championship team? I don't know if that's going to be the case. We'll kind of keep an eye and see how his progression goes, how his numbers look, but he's definitely one of the better players with this group. You can ignore the auto-generated player behind him. It's going to be like that for probably 5 or 6 different guys on this team. We head over here to the shooting guard spot, Tim Hardaway Jr., who I believe was one of the leading scorers on this team. He's only 24 years old right now, and he's already pushing an 80 overall, which is certainly nice to see. Almost similar to Schroeder. We'll kind of have to see how his development goes and then decide if we think he can be the starter on the championship team. Again, similar, ignore it. The small forward spot, which I would say is easily the weakest position of this group. Dabo Cephalosha and Taurean Prince are on different ends of their career. Taurean Prince obviously kind of just entering the league. Cephalosha, who is of course already 32 years old. Maybe not on his way out, but certainly on his way out of a starting spot here. So that's certainly a position we'll look to upgrade at some point. You could ignore this. By the way, I will be removing these dreadful and fake contracts from these fake players because I get it. There's no way to get all the players who were actually on this team onto the roster. That's okay, but I'm certainly not going to eat up bad contracts because there's no other real reason to have them. The power forward spot, Paul Millsap. Okay. If I'm not remembering correctly, if I read the article correctly that I was just diving into a little bit before getting into this video, I believe that the reason that the Atlanta Hawks tried to trade Dwight Howard after one season, not only because they knew it was probably time to move on, but was also because they wanted to have money to re-sign Paul Millsap. He is our best player. That is clear. He's an 88 overall. He is 31 years old, but I don't necessarily think he has to be traded at any point. If I can get this team to a championship contender in 3 seasons, which of course is the goal here today and pretty much every single video, I think there's certainly an argument to make that he could be one of the better players on this team the entire time. So we'll keep an eye on that. Chris Kardashian's here. He's 31, probably not long for this group. And then finally the center spot here. We have 3, real centers here. Dwight Howard, as I mentioned, only played 1 season for this Atlanta team. I'm a Celtics fan. I'll tell you right now, I did not think that Al Horford back in the 2016 offseason was going to depart Atlanta to sign with the Celtics, but he did. And I don't know if the Dwight Howard signing was, a panic move or just really something to get a notable name or a hometown player in Howard, but the signing didn't work out, and he was not nearly as good as Al Horford was in Atlanta for a long time. So we'll keep an eye on it. He is an 82 overall. He's only 30. It's not like he's completely washed, but I don't love the money he's making, and I do think that we could get an upgrade at at some point. So we'll keep an eye on it. Behind him, we have veteran player here in Thiago Splitter, then finally 25-year-old Mike Muscala. So there are going to be some moves before year one kicks off. I am curious, what's our draft pick situation looking like? So we have our own first this year, which is certainly good. There's a possibility we may suck. I don't think we'll be bottom of the barrel. But if we're in the lottery, I'd like to have my draft pick. So something to keep in mind before we go ahead and kick off some moves here in year one. Our first trade of today's video is going to come with the Los Angeles Lakers. Now, this is a player that I have picked up before in Ivica Zubac, but it has certainly been enough time where I can trade for him again and, not be overly concerned about it. Thabo Sefolosha and Chris Kardashian are both 30-plus years old. They are both expiring contracts, and neither of them was long for this team. We are sending them both to Los Angeles along with the 2017 second, getting Ivica Zubac and Nick Young in return. Now, I'm not exactly sure what we're going to do with Nick Young, but Zubac is, young, he's affordable, he's controllable, which I think is certainly something this team desperately needs right now. Our next move is going to come with the Indiana Pacers. We are sending Thiago Splitter and Harvey Best, whoever the hell that is, along with the 2019 second over to Indiana, and in return we are landing ourselves Monte Ellis and Georges Niang. So this deal is being done for a couple of reasons. Thiago Splitter was not only not really needed anymore after the Zubac deal, but he's also 31 years old, also expiring. In return, we get a multi-year deal here with Ellis. We get a backup shooting guard, which is needed, and then Georges Niang's only 23 right now and under control this entire video if we really wanted him to be. So a little 2-for-1 swap right here while getting two positions we potentially need, I think is a pretty good move. And finally, it is no surprise that we are desperately looking to find ourselves a backup point guard behind Dennis Schroeder, and we are going to find two, actually, in a deal with the Toronto Raptors. We're sending out Mike Muscala, whatever the hell Alan Moore is, in our own 2017 second, which, may end up being somewhat valuable if it's in the early 30s, but I'm not necessarily worried about it. Getting DeLon Wright and Fred VanVleet back in this deal is going to be huge. Now, Fred VanVleet, in this video anyways, is not going to be nearly the player he, eventually becomes, but we'll figure it out. And again, they're both on multi-year controllable deals that I think are going to be really big benefits for us once we get to our first offseason. So that might be it for trades. Here's kind of my thought process right now. It's going to be Schroeder. I'm actually going to play Fred over DeLon Wright. I just obviously know that Fred VanVleet turns into a better player, and they're both the same overall. Fred's 2 years younger. It doesn't really matter too much. The shooting guard spot will be Tim Hardaway Jr. and Monte Ellis. I am actually going to keep Nick Young. Now, he has a player option after this season, which he may or may not pick up, but I'm not super worried about losing him if we do, and again, there's a strong likelihood that he actually might accept that player option. Taurean Prince will be starting. Power forward spot's going to be Paul Millsap, Georges Niang, and then finally center will be Dwight Howard and Ivica Zubac. So, this team, we didn't necessarily make ourselves significantly worse to the point that our value or our draft pick would be super valuable, but I think we have a lot more flexibility heading into this first offseason. So I'm considering this first year pretty much a throwaway season. We're still going to try to compete and everything like that, but let's just say I don't exactly have crazy expectations. So let's set that rotation. It's interesting. Part of me almost misses these old Atlanta Hawks jerseys. Like, I don't really feel like they were designed super well, and I think the whole color scheme of them isn't necessarily great. And I think a lot of the time that, it's just nostalgia kicking my ass when I think of things like this. But I don't know. I've seen Schroeder in this jersey anyways. It just looks right. I don't know. Here's our starting five. It's going to be Schroeder and Tim Hardaway Jr. here in the backcourt, Taurean Prince at the 3, Millsap and Howard in our front court. Bench unit will be led by Monte Ellis, Ivica Zubac, Nick Young, Fred VanVleet, and Georges Niang. So, we pretty much did a complete overhaul of this bench. I honestly think 6 through 10 are all completely new players. Actually, yeah, they are. So we didn't really do much with the starting 5. We actually didn't really do anything at all. So bench unit has, of course, been upgraded just a bit. And I am excited to see how this year one goes, because quite honestly, I'm not really sure what to expect. I will see you guys at the end of the first season. I wasn't exactly sure what to expect from this team. I think that was pretty clear when I was discussing it. And yeah, it wasn't good. We won only 25 games. Gonna have to take a pretty good look in the mirror this offseason to decide kind of the direction we want to go with this team, because there's obviously a lot more work than I maybe initially anticipated. Russell Westbrook, he is your MVP. Simmons, Rookie of the Year. You got Lou Will taking home 6th man. Draymond winning DPOY. Derrick Rose, yeah, again, if you're not familiar, this is your first time watching one of my Curry era rebuilds as of recently. There's a lot to be thankful for, and the people that spend time like manually adding players onto this roster. But the one thing that is certainly messed up here with the one that I'm using is the fact that it's MVP Derrick Rose here, which obviously was not the case at this time. And Popovich, 69-13 there in San Antonio, really solid season out of them. He is your Coach of the Year. So We, have some tough decisions to make. That goes without being said. First and foremost, I'm hoping we can get a little lucky in the draft lottery, because 25 and 57 was not necessarily what I was hoping for in year one. Let's dive into some of the numbers real quick. It's going to be a lot of make or break decisions when it comes down to how this team looks and how these guys played. All relatively similar in the scoring department for Millsap, Hardaway Jr., and then Schroeder. You see a little bit of a fall off here. Taurean Prince as our fourth leading scorer. Whoa. Dwight Howard is down to a 78 overall, and his relations are heated. Getting pissed at us because you suck does not necessarily make your case. But yeah, we'll be moving on from him after this season, as the Atlanta Hawks did in real life. All right, let's sim through the playoffs. Of course, we are not going to be participating. Hopefully, this is the only season we have to say that. And it is the San Antonio Spurs and Kawhi Leonard beating DeMar DeRozan and the Toronto Raptors in the finals here in the first season. Okay, it is time for offseason number one. How funny would it have been if Dwight Howard was like, fuck you, and just retired? That would have been hilarious. Staff retirements, Kurt Rambis. You got Pierce entering the Hall of Fame. Manu, not a Hall of Famer? Okay, 2K. All right, let's get into it. Just some jersey changes here, and everything else is fine. Easily the biggest moment of this video for us so far, as we are projected the 4th overall selection. Don't screw me today, 2K. And we end up falling to number 5. All right, it's not the end of the world. I can live with it. Mike Budenholzer, I believe, was the coach of this team. We're going to look to move on. This feels like a good day to go out and get Mike Stauffer. I need about as much help as I can get, and it definitely has been a minute since I've gotten him. All right, it is the 2017 draft. We have a decision to make with the number 5 overall pick. If we stay at 5, it means we're likely not getting Tatum or Donovan Mitchell, but I feel like I've gotten both of them a lot, so maybe we could turn our attention elsewhere. This is a pretty good draft class. Are we going to get somebody maybe like a Lauri Markkanen? Could even consider Kuzma. Lonzo, of course, is sitting here with Bam Adebayo as well. So I'm actually going to stay at number 5. I'm going to, not hope and pray that one of Mitchell or Tatum doesn't fall to me, but I'd like to mix it up every now and then. So we'll actually sit right here at number 5 in the draft. We'll take a look at the summary so far. It is Tatum, Bam. Oh my God, Donovan Mitchell fell to me. Well, my kind of backup plan was, kind of one of the 3 of Bam, Markkanen, or Kuzma. And of course, they are now all off the board. And while there's, certainly a strong case to make that I could just probably trade the 5th overall pick and get at least one of them, I'm going to take the second best player in this class, in my opinion, here, Donovan Mitchell. I didn't trade up for it. I didn't even ask for it. It kind of just fell in my lap. And I feel like I'd be pretty stupid not to do it. I tried, right? I tried not to get him, but I'm going to. Welcome to the team. Which means he'll probably take over the starting shooting guard spot, which is fine. Team player options, Paul Millsap declines. Nick Young, as we expected, ends up picking up his player option. Then we're going to bring back Niang, Wright, and Van Vliet. So I think my first order of business before we get to free agency is going to be to trade Dwight Howard. Of course, we'd like to retain Paul Millsap and Tim Hardaway Jr. as well, but certainly would like to move off the Dwight Howard contract as they did in real life. We are pulling off a trade, and we are dumping Dwight Howard, who is back up to his own 82 overall. He was a little pissy and went down to a 78. I don't know. We're sending out him, Monte Ellis, and Nick Young in a deal with the Milwaukee Bucks that is going to land us Chris Middleton and Greg Monroe. Now, I'm not exactly sure what our plans is here with Monroe. He's going to be entering free agency next offseason. He's 27, so it's certainly not an age where you'd have to, consider dumping him because of that. But this deal is really for Middleton. He's going to take over the small forward spot. I think it's a significant upgrade there. Nothing wrong with Taurean Prince, but Middleton, obviously, is a welcome addition. And then we'll figure out if we want to keep Monroe or flip him in another deal. But again, the Dwight Howard era here is over, and it was not a very successful one at that. Along with that, Monte Ellis and Nick Young, who may not be looked at as favorable contracts. So doing all that without giving up a single first-round pick feels like a pretty big win. I think that is the first trade, or that has definitely been needed, and there are certainly a lot more to come. I have offered out 3 contracts. After trading away Dwight Howard and, Monte Ellis and Nick Young, we actually had a little bit of cap space. Now, that cap space will likely have to be used to re-sign Paul Millsap, but I also made pretty significant offers to Steph Curry and Kevin Durant. Now, I think there's almost a 0% chance either of them accepts it, but on the off chance that they do, we're going to have a bit of a situation on our hands. But here goes nothing. Tim Hardaway Jr. wants to go to the Pistons. Okay. Neither of them accepted. Again, not really a crazy surprise, but I'd be stupid not to try. We're going to match the contract that Millsap got from Detroit. We, of course, are going to bring back Hardaway got from Detroit. We, of course, are going to bring back Millsap as well. So I'm excited about that. Steph Curry goes to the Bulls. Kevin Durant goes back to Golden State. I feel like I always see that in these videos. It feels like KD always goes back to the Warriors, and Steph Curry takes his talent, not always to the Bulls, but just to another team. So bringing back 2 of our guys who are actually pretty good for us, I think is super important. And I think we definitely still have a few more trades to make. Oh, wow. The Pelicans accepted that. Okay, well, we just made a pretty big deal there with New Orleans. We sent out Greg Monroe, DeLon Wright, whoever the hell Les Bryant is, and our own first-round pick, not in next year's draft, but the one after that, which would be 2019. So Drew Holiday's going to come in. He is, of the overall that I think will be very impactful with this team, where he is now an 87 already. It obviously leaves a bit of a hole at our center spot, but I think I'm going to give Zubac a shot. Now, Greg Monroe is certainly a better player than Zubac is right now, but he was also expiring, and I'm not necessarily sure he was somebody I was willing to invest in long term. So my entire plan and philosophy was to find a way to get Schroeder to run a second unit. He's good enough to be a starting point guard. There's no doubt about that, but I think our bench unit could certainly use somebody like him. So we've pretty much sorted out everything else here heading into year number 2. Again, I'd like to find myself some sort of backup center, but I don't know if it's going to be Fred VanVleet included in a deal that lands me one. Again, he's not making a lot of money, so he just may be moved for a draft pick, but then I'll just sign somebody. But if there's somebody out here, I'll take it. If not, we'll take a draft pick. Who could suck? Anything from 2018? This is the Clippers. Who's on the Clippers team? Yeah, they're going to be good. All right, I will just probably take a future pick from somebody else. All right, Fred VanVleet for, I don't know. Timberwolves is fine. It's in 2020, but who cares? And then the center market here is not probably super elite, but honestly, JaVale McGee is only 29, 2-year deal. Here to be our backup big man behind Zubac. I can live with that. So, yep, we are all set. Again, still have our first-round pick next year just in case everything does go to shit, but this team is definitely much better than we were just a year ago. Year 2 for us here in Atlanta, we have finalized our 10-man rotation. There is some good news, there's some bad news. Good news is it obviously looks much better, at least on paper, than it did 365 days ago. The bad news is we got 0 progression out of Ivica Zubac, which I thought he would, maybe go up to like a 78, 79. I don't think that could have been out of the question, but nope, he stayed at a 76 on the dot. It is what it is. Drew Holiday, Donovan Mitchell, Chris Middleton, Paul Millsap, and then Zubac. The good news, I guess, also is that Paul Millsap didn't see any regression, so I guess you got to give a little and take a little. Bench unit is also much, much better than it was a season ago. Dennis Schroeder now leading this second unit. Tim Hardaway Jr. behind him. You got JaVale McGee, who, of course, we brought in on a 2-year deal. Taurean Prince, and finally, Georges Niang. And, of course, we have a new head coach as well here, Mr. Michael Stauffer. So, I'm not saying we're, again, top of the top in the East, but I think we should easily be in the playoffs this time around and hopefully competing for a championship. So we'll find that out together at the end of year number 2. Blake Griffin is your MVP here as we wrap up the second season in Atlanta. I love Blake, man. I really wish he got a ring. We go 46-36 on the season where, it's not bad, right? I don't know if we're going to be competing for a championship or anything like that, but at least we are moving in the right direction. We have some sort of path we're working on. Blake, unbelievable season. Lonzo Ball, he is your Rookie of the Year. You got Jared Sullinger, 6th Man of the Year, Celtics legend. Kawhi Leonard is your DPOY. Iman Shumpert wins Most Improved. Doc Rivers, 62-20. He takes home Coach of the Year. So let's take a full look at it. We are barely in the playoffs. Wow, looks like the East has seen some significant improvements here. As 46 wins only gets you as the 8th seed, whereas in real life, in the 2016-17 season, I know this is 2017-18 technically, you get my point, this Atlanta team won only 43 games and they were a 5 seed. Here is a look at the Western Conference as well. Let's go ahead and dive into some of the numbers real quick, see how everybody played for us. It was Drew Holiday leading us in the scoring department, Paul Millsap not far behind him, Chris Middleton, Ivica Zubac wasn't bad, again, the overall, those are similar, like, hypothetically. I know maybe, Howard's a little bit better defensively, but just comparing the numbers, at least statistically, I think Howard gave us like 9 and 10 last year, maybe 9 and 12. We get 12 and 9, almost 13 and 9 out of Zubac, and he's on $1 million a year contract. So very happy about that move. Dennis Schroeder, Donovan Mitchell, I thought would maybe be not a little bit better, but I just thought he'd maybe take over at the scoring department because, he kind of did that as a rookie in Utah. Tim Hardaway Jr., Taurean Prince, Georges Niang, and then finally, JaVale McGee, and then Georges Niang. Rebounds with Zubac, and assists were led by Drew Holiday. Almost 9.5 a game. Not bad. All right, Toronto won the East last year. This team is really good. Something I've noticed in a lot of these rebuilds is there's really no sign of LeBron and the Cavs, really ever. I see them time to time, but LeBron ran the Eastern Conference pretty much the entire time he was a member of it. I thought for sure, at least in these rebuilds, he'd be in, many Eastern Conference finals, probably a lot of NBA finals, but no. We end up getting swept in round 1, which, isn't necessarily ideal, but, not necessarily too crazy of a thought. Tough series for Drew Holiday in the scoring department. Chris Middleton as well, just not great. You can see the rookie, ness getting to Donovan Mitchell, and then, yeah. So what I think we need is just maybe another elite scoring option. We'll obviously consider all sorts of moves, but I don't really think this team's in a terrible spot. And Avery Bradley, my fucking GOAT, Finals MVP. All right, it is the final offseason. We have, I don't want to say a lot of tough decisions to make, but I think there are a lot of potential moving pieces. And I'm not saying we're going to blow this team up or anything, but I think there is at least one or two really big moves that could be made. So we do not have a lottery pick. Of course, we were in the playoffs. We're going to hang on to Stauffer. It can't literally get any better than that. And as we approach the 2018 draft, I think we should have one more first. We do. It's from the Timberwolves, and it's at number 19. So I'm not going to use all three of these picks. I think consolidating them would not be the worst idea in the world. Why Zubats? What's up with our centers getting all pissy? I don't really know or understand what the hell's going on there. I am going to think about maybe a bit of a bigger move right now, but if not, I'll just see you guys in the draft. Our 2 first-round picks, along with every other second-round pick we own, we're going to offer them to the Philadelphia 76ers and see if we can move up to number 7. If they are not willing to accept this, we'll go to number 8 and then number 9, and you guys understand. Until somebody finally accepts, and Philly actually accepted. Maybe I should have started with 6. We're going to have the 7th overall pick. Again, it's not going to get us Luka or Trae Young, but we're hopefully going to get a quality NBA player here that can contribute in this final season. So there are certainly some names here. I understand Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is, easily the best player that is sitting here right now. My opinion, he's the second best player in this draft. Not really much conversation there. But I'm not going to draft him because I've gotten him in a lot of these videos, and I think it would be, at least nice to consider some other options. So again, sorry, that's my alarm. Again, very much aware there are some better players here, but I am going to... actually, you know what? I might consider a trade here, because now we've moved up to number 7. Let me think about a move. I tried to pull off a blockbuster and land ourselves DeMar DeRozan. It just didn't happen. Back to this regularly scheduled program. I'm going to take somebody here, whether they play, whether they're traded. I'm not really sure, but I'm going to take Mikal Bridges. He could play the 2. He could play the 3. Again, my whole speech about SGA stays true. I honestly get him too much. And again, my apologies for the alarm. It's the alarm that lets me know my video just went live. I know that probably gave some people PTSD from their morning alarms. All right, we're bringing back everybody. Again, I'm not really sure why Ivica Zubac is on his period, along with pretty much every other center we've had. Every other is only Dwight Howard, but you understand what I'm saying. Free agency. We're not going to have a lot of cap space. Not really a lot of money to spend, which is, okay. I kind of understand it. It's just the way these things go. If I wanted to, I could maybe make a play for Paul George. How much money do we have? We have, let's see. Oh, we're so far into the negatives. I'm not even going to try. It's just not going to happen. All right, we're going to have to make a move via trade, and yeah, it's going to take something pretty big, I think, to get this team, strictly to a championship contender, but I got to give it my best shot. I'm thinking about bringing back a franchise icon, at least a former one. Now, I understand Al Horford is now 32 years old, but honestly, he'd be a significant upgrade in this starting 5, and I think that's what it's going to take. I'm not sure if Zubac will develop heading into year 3. He very well might, but again, we need an upgrade. It's kind of undoubtable at this point. So I'm offering up Schroeder, JaVale McGee, and Mikal Bridges. Unfortunately, Mikal Bridges kind of has to be in here to make the money work. I think the good thing is we should be able to get this done with limited, if not no, draft picks. So yeah, I had a feeling the Celtics would take that. You can kind of just tell by the value, but Horford going to be coming back here to Atlanta now, and he is going to be back at the starting center position with his old friend Paul Millsap, so they'll probably stay there. I could just run this thing into the final season, but I'm going to at least consider one other move, but again, I'm not going to force the issue because I do think this team is now really, really good. Oh my God. Whoa, what the fuck just happened? Okay, we pulled off a blockbuster with the Wizards, and it was not necessarily one I thought they were going to accept, but we got even better. We really did. Which now also leaves me in a bit of a tough spot, because I don't know if I love Bradley Beal playing the small forward spot, but he goes up in overall, and he's just going to be next to Donovan Mitchell. So I definitely made our bench worse throughout this offseason. There's no doubt about that. We need to find some backup guards, but the star power here has just significantly improved. So yeah, we're going to have to, sign the Seth Currys of the world who, it's actually not a bad signing. He's going to end up being a backup shooting guard for us, and then we do need to find ourselves somebody just to be the backup point guard behind Drew Holiday. And yeah, this list is terrible. Gary Payton, at least he's only 25 years old. It's not a perfect fit, but it's 10 minutes a night, and maybe he develops a little bit. So yeah, I was not expecting the Beal trade to go through. I was honestly kind of just screwing around. And this is what we ended up with. So we're all in. It's the final year. I'll see you guys at the rotation. Final season in Atlanta. We had a much busier offseason than I was initially anticipating. Of course, making two major upgrades in this starting five with Beal and Horford. And yeah, this is, again, easily the best 1 through 5 we have had so far in this video. And hopefully it is good enough to win a championship, because we have actually not even got out of the first round of the playoffs yet. Drew Holiday, Donovan Mitchell, Bradley Beal, Paul Millsap, Al Horford. Bench unit is certainly worse than it was a year ago, but I think it's worth the trade-off anyways. Seth Curry, Taurean Prince, Ivica Zubac, Georges Niang, Gary Payton II. I don't know, man. Is it enough? We'll find out. This was easily our best season yet, and if it wasn't, I would have been tremendously disappointed and surprised. We go 67-15, which is awesome. I don't know if that's the best in the league, but it certainly feels like it's possible. Another Clipper winning MVP. Of course, Blake won it just a season ago. You got CP3 taking it home this year. Maybe a finals matchup with them. Trae Young does win Rookie of the Year. You know, a friend in a different universe at this point. Gordon Hayward is signed with the Warriors. How the Warriors have Gordon Hayward money is so beyond me. I don't know how they afford that, because they brought back Kevin Durant. They were in the same exact free agency, so unless they traded like Draymond or Clay, obviously Steph signed with the Bulls, I don't really know. Giannis is your depoy. You got Dennis Smith Jr. winning Most Improved, and Mike Stoudemire does win Coach of the Year. Typically a pretty good omen for best record in the league, and it was the best record in the East and best record in the league. Let's dive into some of the numbers real quick. Points per game, it was Bradley Beal. Again, was not necessarily expecting the Wizards to take that trade when I offered it to them, but I guess all the draft picks were helpful enough, and he was fantastic for us. Drew Holiday, Donovan Mitchell. I mean, he was that elite scoring option we were desperately needing. I think that kind of goes without being said. Donovan Mitchell, Paul Millsap, Al Horford, Curry, Zubac, Prince, Niang, and Payton. Boards going to be led by Horford, and then assists is Drew Holiday. I didn't realize we had, Drew and Al back together. I don't know. All right, it is the Wizards here in round one, who of course traded us Bradley Beal, and they're in the playoffs still. So I'm really hoping they don't go out looking for some serious revenge, because I'd like to get out of the first round for once. They do win game 4, and we win the series in 5. Finally, I've been talking about him in the playoffs for every season so far, and he finally shows up when I really don't need him to, because LeBron in the playoffs, especially against Atlanta, is just not a good omen for me. We're down 3-2. Disappointing. I actually can't remember the last time in one of these rebuilds, especially the Curry era rebuilds, that I didn't at least get to the final. I put it out there into the 2K universe, and I swear to God, it's like they're listening to me. I'm like, where the fuck has LeBron been this whole time? It feels like he always, runs the East. Well, I guess they heard me, because he did. Disappointing ending. To not even make a conference finals is really tough. I certainly don't remember the last time that happened, but all things considered, I think we did put together a pretty good team. I don't necessarily regret any of the big trades last offseason, because I think Beal and Horford were both pretty positive contributors to this group. I just think the Cavs might have even been better. So, yeah, disappointing, but I show you guys the good, the bad, and the ugly, and I learn from these situations. I truly do. But I still enjoyed this one. I hope you guys were able to as well. This was an interesting team, and, this wasn't necessarily the direction I was planning on going, but we ended up with still a really good team. We just couldn't quite get the job done. Kind of the story of like the mid-2010s Atlanta Hawks. So I hope you guys still liked it. That is going to be it for me. As always, thanks so much for watching. I love you guys. I'll catch you guys all in the next one.